Emma Thompson gripped the steering wheel of her old car as she drove through the dark Manchester streets. Her body ached from working 2 jobs, but she smiled thinking about the children she'd just helped at the community center. Their faces lit up when she explained math problems, and that made everything worth it. At 9 p.m., the streets were quiet. Emma lived at number 24 Oak Street now, a small flat she'd bought after years of saving every penny. Her neighbors were nice, enough though they didn't speak to her much. She was different from them and they noticed. Suddenly, bright blue lights filled her rearview mirror. Her heart started racing. Emma's hands began to shake as she pulled over to the side of the road. She'd heard stories from her friends about police stops, and now it was happening to her. The police car parked behind hers. 2 officers got out and walked toward her with heavy steps. Emma could see their faces in her side mirror. They looked angry even though she hadn't done anything wrong. "Turn off your engine and step out of the car," said the first officer. His name tag read Mitchell. His voice was cold and unfriendly. Emma took a deep breath. "May I please ask why you stopped me, officer?" "Don't question us, just get out," said the second officer, Smith. He stood with his arms crossed, trying to look scary. Emma's hands were still shaking as she unbuckled her seatbelt. She moved slowly, knowing that sudden movements could cause trouble. Her mother had taught her this. When she was young, always keep your hands where officers can see them. "I was just driving home from work," Emma said quietly as she stepped out of her car. The night air felt cold on her skin. Officer Mitchell looked at her with doubt in his eyes. "Work? At this time? In this nice neighborhood?" Emma felt her face get hot with embarrassment. She worked hard for everything she had. She'd saved money for 5 years to buy her flat here. "I teach children at the community center, and I clean offices at night. I live here now, at number 24 Oak Street." The officers looked at each other. They didn't believe her. Emma could see it in their faces. To them, she didn't belong in this neighborhood. "We need to search your car," Officer Smith said, stepping closer. "But I haven't done anything wrong," Emma replied. Her voice was small, but inside she felt angry. This wasn't fair. "You haven't told me why you stopped me." Officer Mitchell's face turned red. "Are you questioning us? Do you think you know better than the police?" Emma felt scared, but she knew her rights. Her uncle had been treated badly by police before, and he'd taught her what to do. She took her phone out of her pocket and pressed the record button, keeping it low so they might not notice. "I'm not questioning you," she said carefully. "I just want to understand why I was stopped." "Put that phone away," Officer Mitchell ordered, reaching for it. But something unexpected happened. A voice came from the darkness nearby. "Leave that young woman alone. I saw everything from my window and I'm recording this too." It was Mrs. Margaret Hughes, Emma's neighbor from 3 houses down. Emma had only met her once when moving in, and the old lady had seemed grumpy then. But now she stood there in her dressing gown holding her phone up high. The officers stopped moving toward Emma. They looked uncomfortable now. "Ma'am, this is police business," Officer Smith said, trying to sound official. "I know exactly what police business looks like, young man." Mrs. Hughes walked closer. Her voice was strong for such an old woman. "My late husband was a policeman for 30 years. This isn't police business. This is bullying." Emma felt tears coming to her eyes. She couldn't believe this neighbor, someone she barely knew, was helping her. More lights turned on in houses nearby. Doors opened. Mr. James Wilson from 2 houses down stepped onto his porch. Mrs. Rachel Green from across the street came out with her husband. Mr. Peter Brown appeared from the house next door. "What's all this noise about?" Peter asked, walking toward them. Officer Mitchell shifted nervously. Having all these people watching changed everything. The officers had expected to deal with Emma alone, but now the whole street was awake. Mrs. Hughes explained everything to the neighbors. "These officers stopped Emma for no reason. I watched from my window. She was just driving home from work and they demanded to search her car without explaining why." More people came out of their houses. Some were dressed in their pajamas. Others had quickly thrown on coats. The officers looked around nervously as the crowd grew bigger. Maybe we should all calm down, Officer Mitchell suggested, his voice softer now. Calm down? You were grabbing for her phone when she tried to record you, Mrs. Hughes said sharply. That's what bullies do when they're caught. James Wilson stepped forward. He worked at the bank and always wore neat suits even on weekends. I'm calling the non-emergency number. We need to speak with a supervisor about this. Emma watched everything happen around her. She felt like she was in a dream. These people, who had barely spoken to her since she moved in, were standing up for her. Her heart felt warm despite the cold night air. Rachel Green moved closer to Emma. Are you okay, dear? Those children you help at the community center. You also help my Tommy with his math homework on Tuesdays. He says you're the best teacher. Emma's eyes filled with tears again. She had no idea Rachel's son was in her tutoring group. Tommy was the quiet boy who sat in the back but worked so hard on his problems. Thank you, Emma whispered to everyone. Officer, Smith tried to explain. We just want to keep the neighborhood safe. We patrol these streets to protect you all. Protect us from what? From Emma? Peter Brown asked. He was a big man who worked at the factory. She's been our neighbor for 3 months now. I see her leave for work early every morning. She helps Mrs. Hughes carry her groceries. She's the one who found my cat when it got lost. The officers shifted uncomfortably. They hadn't expected this. They thought the neighbors would want them to check on strangers, especially those who looked different. James finished his phone call. The sergeant is coming. He'll be here in 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes felt like forever. The neighbors stayed outside in the cold, waiting. Some brought chairs from their porches. Mrs. Hughes made Emma sit down, worried she might be tired from work. You shouldn't have to deal with this, said Rachel, offering Emma a warm scarf. Nobody should. Officer Mitchell tried to start conversations with the neighbors. Nice weather we've been having. Was the weather nice when you were harassing our neighbor? Mrs. Hughes replied sharply. I wasn't, the officer started. We all saw you, James interrupted, and we all heard you. You didn't believe Emma lives here. You didn't believe she works 2 jobs. You made up your mind about her before you even knew her. Emma watched the officers' faces. They looked embarrassed. Now, Officer Smith kept looking at his feet. Officer Mitchell's red face had turned pale. The sound of another police car arriving made everyone turn. A sergeant stepped out, older than the other officers with gray hair and a serious expression. I'm Sergeant Patrick O'Connor, he announced. Someone called to report a problem. Mrs. Hughes stepped forward. She was small but stood tall. Yes, I did. These officers stopped Emma Thompson without reason. She was driving home from work. They demanded to search her car. When she asked why, they refused to answer. When she tried to record, Officer Mitchell tried to grab her phone. She held up her own phone. I recorded everything. So did Peter here, and James. We all saw it. The sergeant looked at his officers, then at Emma, then at all the neighbors. His expression became very serious. Officers Mitchell and Smith, wait in your patrol car. I need to speak with Ms. Thompson and the witnesses. The 2 officers walked slowly to their car. They knew they were in trouble. Emma told the sergeant exactly what happened. Her voice was steady now, surrounded by her neighbors. The sergeant listened carefully, asking questions and taking notes. Ms. Thompson, I apologize for what happened tonight. You have every right to be here. You have every right to drive through any neighborhood in this city. He turned to the witnesses. Thank you for standing up and speaking out. This is how communities should work. The neighbors nodded, some looking proud of themselves. They had done the right thing. Would you like to file a formal complaint? The sergeant asked Emma. Emma hesitated. Part of her wanted to forget this night ever happened. Part of her was afraid of causing more trouble. But then she looked at all the faces around her, neighbors who had stood with her even though they barely knew her. Yes, she said firmly. I want to file a complaint. Sergeant O'Connor wrote down everything Emma said. He asked her to describe exactly what happened, from the moment she saw the blue lights to when Mrs. Hughes called out. Did the officers give you any reason for the stop? He asked. No, sir. Officer Mitchell just said I looked suspicious. Then Officer Smith said I didn't belong in this neighborhood. The sergeant's face grew serious. Did anyone hear them say this? I did. Mrs. Hughes stepped forward. I heard it clearly from my window. Me too, Peter added. I was taking out the trash when I heard the commotion. Rachel nodded. We all heard it. That's why we came outside. The sergeant turned to James. And you recorded everything? Yes, sir. From the moment I stepped outside. James showed his phone. I have video of both officers telling Emma she didn't fit in here. Sergeant O'Connor looked at all the evidence. Officer Mitchell, Officer Smith, come here. The two officers got out of their car slowly. They walked with their heads down like children in trouble. What happened tonight was wrong, the sergeant said firmly. You stopped a citizen without cause. You made assumptions based on appearance. You refused to explain your actions. This is not how we serve our community. Officer Mitchell started to speak. We were just... No excuses, the sergeant interrupted. I've heard enough from the witnesses. You both will return to the station immediately. We'll discuss this further with the chief tomorrow. The officers had to drive away, leaving their car lights flashing one last time before disappearing down the street. Thank you, everyone, Emma said to her neighbors. You didn't have to help me. Yes, we did, Mrs. Hughes said firmly. That's what neighbors do. I remember when I moved here 20 years ago, Peter shared. Some people weren't friendly to me either because I had a different job. But good neighbors helped me feel welcome. Rachel smiled at Emma. Tommy talks about you all the time. He says you explain math in a way that finally makes sense to him. Emma felt her heart warming. He's such a good student. He just needed someone to believe in him. Like we believe in you, James said. We're sorry we didn't talk to you more before tonight. Sometimes we forget to be friendly until something happens to remind us. Mrs. Hughes invited everyone to her house for tea. It's too late for sleep now anyway. In Mrs. Hughes's kitchen, everyone talked and shared stories. Emma learned that Peter had moved to England from Ireland with nothing. Rachel had been a single mother before meeting her husband. James had lost his job last year, but the neighbors helped him find a new one. This street has its problems, Mrs. Hughes admitted, pouring tea into cups. But we're good people. We just forget sometimes to show it. Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years, like she belonged somewhere. These weren't just houses on a street. This was becoming a community. What happens now? Emma asked. Sergeant O'Connor returned to give her an official complaint form. You can mail this in or drop it off tomorrow. The department will investigate. Both officers will face consequences. What kind of consequences? Rachel asked. That depends on the investigation, but they'll need retraining at minimum. We can't have officers treating residents this way. After the sergeant left, the neighbors made a plan. James suggested creating a neighborhood watch group, but the right kind, one that protected everyone equally. If anyone sees unfair treatment again, we all come out, Peter said. We stand together. Mrs. Hughes had an idea too. Let's start a welcoming committee. When new people move in, we bring cookies and introduce ourselves properly. Emma listened to all their plans. Tears came to her eyes again, but this time they were happy tears. A few hours ago, she was alone and scared. Now she had neighbors. Who cared? I need to get some sleep, Emma finally said. I have to teach children again tomorrow morning. As she walked home, all her neighbors walked with her. They stood at her door until she was safely inside. Through her window, Emma saw Mrs. Hughes watching from her house. She waved, and the old lady waved back before turning off her porch light. Emma realized something important that night. It wasn't just about what had happened with the police. It was about a community finding its heart again, and her finding a place where she truly belonged. Emma received a letter 2 weeks later from the Manchester Police Department. Both officers had been given official warnings and needed to complete special training about treating all people fairly. Her video recording had helped prove what really happened that night. But something even better was happening in her neighborhood. The people on Oak Street started talking to each other more and more. Mrs. Hughes invited Emma for tea every Sunday afternoon. They sat in the old lady's kitchen with its flowered wallpaper, sharing stories and eating cookies. Emma learned that Mrs. Hughes had raised 3 children alone after her husband died young. "You remind me of myself when I was younger," Mrs. Hughes told her, strong and not afraid to stand up for what's right. Rachel Green and her family became close friends too. Rachel's son Tommy asked Emma to help him with math every Tuesday after his regular school. Rachel always insisted Emma stay for dinner. Afterward, "You're like family now," Rachel would say, placing a full plate in front of Emma. Peter Brown started checking on Emma's old car. One Saturday morning, he knocked on her door with his toolbox. "Let me look at that engine noise," he offered. "I used to work with cars before I joined the factory." Peter fixed several problems without asking for money. "That's what neighbors do," he said simply. James Wilson created a neighborhood WhatsApp group. Everyone joined except Mrs. Hughes, who preferred phone calls. "If anyone has problems or needs help, message the group," James explained. "We look out for each other now." The group became active with friendly messages. People offered rides, shared extra vegetables from gardens, and warned about upcoming roadwork. But its most important job was watching for unfair police treatment. "If you see someone being stopped for no reason, alert us," Peter posted. "We come out and watch together." Emma felt amazed at this change. The neighborhood had gone from cold and distant to warm and caring, all because one night brought them together. The local newspaper heard about what happened. A reporter named Michelle Anderson came to interview Emma and several neighbors. "Community stands together against unfair police treatment," read the headline. The article included quotes from Mrs. Hughes, James, and Peter. "Emma showed courage that night," Mrs. Hughes told the reporter. "She taught us we can be better neighbors." The story spread across Manchester. Other neighborhoods started similar watch groups. People talked about police fairness in coffee shops and at work. Officer Sergeant O'Connor read the article too. He called Emma one afternoon. "Ms. Thompson, I'd like to invite you to speak at our community meeting next month. Would you be willing?" Emma wasn't sure at first. The idea scared her. But her neighbors encouraged her. "You have important things to say," Rachel told her. At the community center where Emma worked, more people started joining activities. Even Sergeant O'Connor began volunteering, teaching safety classes to teenagers. "I want young people to understand their rights," he explained to Emma. "And I want officers to build relationships with the community." One day, something surprising happened. Officer Mitchell came to the community center. Emma felt nervous seeing him again. "Ms. Thompson," he said quietly, "I want to apologize for that night. The training made me realize how wrong I was. I hope I can prove I'm better now." Emma looked at him carefully. His face showed real regret. "Actions matter more than words," she replied, but she gave him a chance to show he'd changed. Officer Mitchell started joining Sergeant O'Connor's safety classes. He spoke honestly about his mistakes that night. "I was wrong to judge Ms. Thompson," he told teenagers. "I was wrong to think someone didn't belong in a neighborhood. I've learned that everyone belongs everywhere if they're respectful and kind." 6 months after that terrible night, Oak Street looked different. Neighbors chatted on sidewalks. Children played together in yards. Mrs. Hughes had created a book club, and Rachel started a cooking exchange where families shared meals. Emma finally felt truly at home. Her small flat wasn't just a place to sleep anymore. It was part of a community that cared about each other. At a neighborhood barbecue, everyone gathered in James's backyard. The smell of grilled food filled the air. Children ran around playing tag. Adults talked and laughed together. "You changed everything," Rachel told Emma, handing her a burger. Emma shook her head. "We all changed together. That's the important part." Peter raised his drink. To Emma, who showed us how to be real neighbors. Everyone raised their glasses, smiling and happy. Emma looked around at the faces that had become so familiar. These weren't just neighbors anymore. They were friends, protectors, and family. 6 months later, Emma stood in front of Manchester City Council in the meeting hall. She had been invited to speak about police and community relationships. Her heart beat fast, but she wasn't alone. Many neighbors sat in the audience to support her. "Good evening. My name is Emma Thompson," she began in a clear voice. "6 months ago, something happened that changed me and my neighborhood forever." She told the councilors about that frightening night. She explained how 2 police officers treated her unfairly, and how her neighbors came together to help. "I was scared that night," Emma admitted, "not just of the officers, but of speaking up. But I learned something important. When we stay quiet about wrong things, nothing changes." Emma described how her neighborhood had transformed. Friends now, not strangers. People who watched out for each other. A community that stood strong together. "I propose creating a citizen group to review police complaints," Emma suggested. "Local people who understand our community and can make fair decisions." Sergeant O'Connor spoke next, supporting Emma's idea. "I've been a policeman for 20 years. I've seen how good relationships between police and community help everyone. What happened on Oak Street should happen everywhere." The councilors listened carefully. They asked questions. They discussed Emma's ideas seriously. 2 months passed. The council approved Emma's proposal. They created the Community Police Review Board. Emma was asked to join as a member. At the community center, Emma got another surprise. The director promoted her to head of youth programs. "You've made such a difference here," the director explained. "Enrollment has doubled since you started. Parents trust you. Children respect you." Emma's new role meant she could create more programs. She started after-school clubs where children learned about their rights and responsibilities. Officer Mitchell sometimes visited to talk about police work and answer questions honestly. "I used to be afraid of police officers," 8-year-old Lily told Emma after class, "but now I know how to talk to them properly." Rachel's son Tommy needed Emma's math help less now. He'd improved so much that he helped teach younger students. "Emma showed me that when things are hard, you don't give up," Tommy explained to his friends. "You work harder and ask for help when you need it." At Oak Street, more changes kept happening. Mrs. Hughes finally joined the WhatsApp group with Rachel's help. She sent messages with wrong spelling that made everyone smile. Having tea time at my house Sunday. All invited. On Sundays, at least 8 neighbors gathered at Mrs. Hughes's kitchen. They shared news, problems, and successes. When the Patels moved in next door, the group welcomed them immediately with cookies and offers of help. James organized the first annual Oak Street Community Day. Neighbors set up tables on the street. Children drew with chalk on the sidewalk. Music played from speakers. Even the police came, not to patrol, but to join the party. Sergeant O'Connor flipped burgers at the grill. "This is real community policing," he told everyone. "Getting to know each other as people." Officer Mitchell had changed completely. He learned people's names. He stopped to chat during his patrols. He asked about their concerns with kindness, not authority. "I'm teaching my children differently now," he confided to Emma. "Respect comes from understanding, not assuming." At Christmas, the neighborhood looked beautiful with lights and decorations. Emma looked out her window at the twinkling homes. Mrs. Hughes had insisted on helping her hang lights despite her age. "You're part of this place now," Mrs. Hughes had said. "Your lights matter too." On New Year's Eve, everyone gathered in the street again. As midnight approached, they counted. Down together. When the clock struck 12, neighbors hugged and cheered. Peter raised his voice above the noise. "To the best neighborhood in Manchester." "And to Emma," Rachel added, "who taught us how to be better." Emma felt tears in her eyes as her neighbors applauded. She thought about that scary night when everything started, how something so frightening had led to something so wonderful. The fireworks burst in the sky above them. Colors spread across the darkness, red, blue, green, and gold. Emma watched them with her new family around her. James put his arm around his wife. Mrs. Hughes held Lily's hand. Peter and Rachel chatted with the Patels. Officer Mitchell stood with Tommy, pointing out different firework patterns. Emma realized that night had been a gift in disguise. It brought together people who needed each other but didn't know it yet. It showed that standing up for what's right can change everything. As the last firework exploded in a shower of light, Emma knew this was more than a neighborhood now. This was home, real home, where people belonged to each other and protected what mattered most, each other. Emma smiled at the night sky. Sometimes the hardest moments lead to the brightest futures. The end.